What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, the Xbox Game Pass announcements keep on hitting, with another game being confirmed, one we actually just talked about yesterday in Newswave being hinted towards. A few other announcements as well. We'll go over all of that here today. Also, Nintendo in 2021. According to Bloomberg in a recent report, could be Nintendo's biggest year yet thanks to software and hardware releases. Oh, and a couple of new Joy-Con controllers were announced, and they'll be drifting their way to a store near you pretty soon. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new to the Spawn channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Sega. We have talked several times about how the pandemic, remote work, COVID-19 have affected a lot of different development studios and dev cycles, deadlines, all these different things, and it looks like it affected Sega pretty badly as well. We can head over here. This is from TalesChannel.com. This was during a Q&A with investors from Sega. It was projected last August that 30 new titles will be released by this March, but they are now expected to release 18 titles, nearly half than originally thought. The major factor has been delays in development, especially in the US and Europe, due to the impact of lockdowns. Almost none of our employees have been able to commute to the office, and this is a big impact. And we've heard this several times now. It's something that's affecting the entire industry, with remote work really throwing a wrench into plans right now. And it has to do mostly with communication, of course. You have these large teams around these massive projects. Video games are very difficult to make. Now you have everyone kind of scattered and trying to talk through Zoom or Discord or any of these, and it does make it a bit harder than going to the office and being able to just kind of walk over to someone's desk and talk to them about something you're trying to solve or figure out. So looking at this, yeah, it's a shame. Hopefully, as we go through the year coming up, Sega can start to get things back on track, because like Sonic was something we were supposed to have heard about already, the 3D big, I guess, next Sonic 3D game, maybe Sonic Adventure 3, but they had to push that off several times now. So here's hoping as we go through 2021, we can hear about that and Sega can get back on track. Also, we had a very exciting controller announcement yesterday, because it's in a line of controllers that I really, really like using, and that's from 8BitDo. We can see a couple of pictures here. This is the 8BitDo Pro 2. It's due out April 12th, now up for pre-order over on Amazon, and a few additions they seem to have made to the 8BitDo Pro Plus controller includes a profile button right in the middle there between the analog sticks, where you can kind of shift between 3 different profiles you have set up. Of course, you can set these different profiles through the application they have, where you can remap buttons and all of these different things. They also have a couple of macro buttons on the back there. So think of what we've looked at with those Power A controllers, or even the Xbox One Elite controller. And the overall grip on the bottom of it seems much, much better. That's something I had mentioned before. It was a bit too smooth, so it didn't have any kind of grippiness to it. It looks like they also worked that out. I really like the 8BitDo controllers, and this just looks like more of a refinement of the Pro Plus that I enjoy, so I will certainly be grabbing this one next month. Oh, and we had just talked yesterday about the FPS boost that several Bethesda games we're going to be seeing that would take the frame rate from 30 to 60, and we didn't really know when that was going to be hitting the Xbox. Looks like they announced that and that it's out now, actually. And just for a refresher of the different games, we can head over to news.xbox.com, where they listed them as Dishonored, The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim Special Edition, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Prey. So go ahead and pick those up on Game Pass. Now, especially Prey. Like, Prey at 60 frames per second is awesome. Certainly a game I think people missed out on before. Now's a great time to check it out. And on top of all of this, we had an update that just kind of dropped for the Outer Worlds, and that enables 60 frames per second, at least as of now, confirmed on the Series X and the PlayStation 5. I like this. I like that a lot of games are just going from like 30 to 60 frames per second on these next-gen systems. That is certainly the direction I like everything to be going in. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Nintendo Switch in 2021 and a new report from Bloomberg outlining some of the key factors coming up here in this new fiscal year for Nintendo that will be starting in April. We can head over here, this from Takashi Machizuki, where he says, many analysts at securities firm view Switch's peak as 2020, due in part to COVID-19 demand surge, but Nintendo suppliers, software makers, and retailers say Switch's momentum is set to accelerate further this year. A couple of key points here from the Bloomberg article includes a series of marquee game releases that are expected to drive software sales next fiscal year to 250 million units, far more than the record 205 million units forecast for the current year, according to the partners and suppliers speaking anonymously. As the plans are not public, analysts have also projected software sales would fall next year. And to go a little further here, makers of NAND flash memory, the media on which packaged Switch software is sold, are preparing more units for the coming fiscal year than they supplied in the current one. The people involved in the supply chain said. Software developers similarly are prioritizing the Switch for their upcoming game releases, as the console is almost certain to surpass the 100 million units sold threshold, assuring a large audience of potential customers. Nintendo had sold 80 million Switch devices as of the end of 2020. Now, they also do mention the idea of Nintendo releasing new hardware, a Switch Pro, a Switch Revision, a Switch XL, a new Nintendo Switch, a Super Nintendo Switch. There's a lot of different names for this thing, but just some kind of new hardware refresh to once again drive demand for a new model, and then just continue to stack system sales on top of system sales for the Switch. I mean, whenever a new color variant for the Switch Lite is announced, people go crazy and pre-order the thing and it sells out. So imagine a system coming out with an OLED screen and 4K capabilities out to the TV. Yeah, the demand once again would explode even further for the Switch. But looking at this, it's interesting because analysts are looking at this as, okay, the Switch sales for games will fall as we go into the next year and the world goes back more to normal, I guess you'd say, and people aren't just stuck in their homes all the time. That's one of the reasons we saw explosions in streaming, games, all of these different things. Digital purchases were skewed heavily away from physical purchases. This is all stuff that would be looked at as, okay, that is obviously because of COVID-19 and the pandemic and people just being at home more. If Nintendo is either flat or even a little up from this past year, that is a massive success for the overall software on the Switch. And that could be attributed to a couple of things. I mean, if you look at going into this holiday, we're expecting possibly three Pokemon games in the fiscal year. Pokemon Snap, then we'd have Diamond and Pearl, and then Arceus. All of that could end up in the months between April 2021 and then at the end of March 2022. And you put Pokemon that many in 1 year, yeah, you're probably gonna need more cartridges. That's not even counting things like the Zelda celebration that's coming up with Skyward Sword, which I know is controversial, but I mean, look at the Amazon listings, it's up there and it will sell. We all, I think, mostly know this. But then going from there could be Breath of the Wild 2 thrown in the mix, maybe a Mario Kart 9. I think Mario Golf will also sell throughout the year going into the holiday, and then you get into the evergreen titles that continue to stack as well. Yes, this does look like it is going to be Nintendo's biggest year for the Switch coming up, and if they have some sort of refresh, it will get out of control. So if I were analyst, I'd be looking at this as maybe a little more bullish on the Switch going through 2021 into the beginning of 2022. Next up, let's talk about Xbox Game Pass. Yesterday, we had talked about a tweet that was put out by Game Pass, kind of hinting towards Outriders. And that surprised a lot of people at the idea of this because it was a game that wasn't out yet, and the idea was that Microsoft would actually put the game on Game Pass day one, like release day, there it is on Game Pass. And it's not a Microsoft game, it's from Square Enix. So Microsoft will be going out there and writing a check to Square to get this done. It looks like that is what is happening after they announced that, yes, Outriders will be releasing on the Game Pass the same day it just releases, April 1st. And this is a big deal in general because this is a strategy I wanted to see Microsoft do with third-party games like a year ago. And it looks like they're going to be trying that here with Outriders. And this makes a lot of sense, by the way, for Outriders in general, because they put the demo out and it just, for me, it didn't set the world on fire. I was just like, I mean, I guess it was fine. It just didn't really make me go, oh, I need to play this game right now. When is it coming out? I just kind of played it a bit and I said, yeah, all right, that's interesting third person Gears of War cover style shooter that has like MMO elements to it with multiplayer. I guess it's not a games as a service as they say, but it kind of feels like one. And anyway, I felt like it would be a game that people might just pass on in general. At least it was coming out in a time when nothing else was really around it, because I feel like the Monster Hunter community isn't going to just go, oh wow, Outriders, and run over to it, even though they're kind of releasing it around each other. I didn't think that would actually overlap with Outriders, but going to Game Pass immediately is great. People Can Fly had mentioned that they were going to let essentially the community around the game decide if they would be creating more content going forward, and putting it on Game Pass will give it more exposure to more people. And remember this, if these third-party games go to Game Pass day one, you can take advantage of it by downloading it on Game Pass, and then if you really like the game, buy it like 3 or 4 months later when it's maybe half off or even less, as we see these games depreciate very quickly on the Xbox or the PlayStation, but you could have been playing it that whole time. So it is a great idea, and I hope Microsoft keeps doing that because it'll also save us, the consumers, quite a bit of money. Oh, and also today, Undertale is hitting Game Pass, March 16th, that's right. So if you have not tried this game out, you know what? It's there on Game Pass. It's had a hardcore following for quite a while now. There's a big controversy around this game on Game FAQs in the Best Game Ever poll. I believe it won, even though people were really frustrated about it. So, hey, it's worth a look. It's on Game Pass. Go ahead and download it and see what all the fuss is about. Next up, let's talk about a couple of new Joy-Con controllers that'll be heading to stores over the summer. We could see this tweet from Nintendo saying, gear up in style with the Joy-Con Fortnite Fleet Force bundle, available June 4th. Includes a uniquely designed yellow Joy-Con and blue Joy-Con, 500 V-Bucks, and a download code for in-game cosmetics. And be sure to drop into the new Fortnite season starting tomorrow, March 16th. You see a couple of pictures here. We have the left Joy-Con with the nice blue, and then the right one is yellow. It's got the little banana face, I guess, on it. Sure, why not? I mean, look, a lot of these companies are leaning into Fortnite because it's super popular, and they all see how much money is coming in on their different platforms. So that's why you had like the Fortnite Switch bundle, even though Fortnite is technically a free-to-play game. They throw some V-Bucks in there and they're off and running. And yeah, that bundle did pretty well in stores because it had Fortnite on it. So yeah, why not slap some Fortnite marketing, I guess a new little paint job there for the Joy-Con controllers, and put out a couple of special edition Fortnite Joy-Con controllers out over the summer, like I said, in June. And yes, I know what you're thinking, it'll probably be drifting its way there, right? But still, new Joy-Con controllers, people certainly enjoy collecting these, but there you go. Couple of Fortnite controllers heading to stores this summer. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Balan Wonderworld, because there was a blog post that was put up on Square's website detailing the game overall, kind of a nice overview of the story and the world itself. And then they also mentioned the demo and some of the feedback that they had received, and we could take a look at that here. This saying, especially when it comes to addressing feedback that we've received from our demo, there's been a wide range of opinions and responses to the demo, and unfortunately at the current stage of development, it simply isn't feasible to reflect every piece of feedback into the game. However, to offer you all a more balanced gameplay experience, we will be implementing a day one patch for the full game. Specifically, this patch will adjust movement controls, camera movement, and rebalancing of the difficulty. There's just over a week left until launch now, so I hope you all enjoy the world of Wonderworld to your heart's content. So, movement controls, camera movement, and rebalancing of the difficulty. All right, so movement controls, sure. I don't really rebalancing the difficulty. I mean, there's so many other things with the game that need work that they'd probably have to actually delay the game outright for a while, because the issues that I was having were like with the core concept of the game itself, the visuals of the game. It looks, people were saying online, it looks like one of those asset flip Steam games, and I mean, they're not that far off. It really doesn't look that good. And then you kind of look at the core concept, which has you shifting between different costumes constantly just to be able to jump at times. You have to change your costume. And it's like, I get the idea of your character getting abilities as you go through the game and you unlock new things. That's something we've had for a while, but it just felt clunky and unnecessary at times to go through the steps just to be able to jump. Like it's very weird, and I don't really know what happened here exactly, but the demo really struggled, turned a lot of people off of the game, and it even had Sean going from AAA Knight's game to just questioning everything about life at times in his video going over it. So unfortunately, I think the game's just gonna come out how it was with the demo, and it's probably gonna get destroyed with reviews, and we'll see what happens here with Sean's AAA Knight's game, Balan Wonderworld, later on this month. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, will the Switch outsell the DS lifetime sales? That would be about 150 million or so. 84% of you said yes, the Switch will continue to run, and only 16% of you said no, the Switch will lose momentum after 100 million, which means after this holiday coming up, which is about when I think the Switch is gonna pass 100 million, is about when it would start to drop off, which is basically what analysts are saying now. But I do think this fiscal year coming up for Nintendo is going to be pivotal. They'll have several Pokemon games releasing in it. They should have Breath of the Wild 2, maybe a Mario Kart, maybe a whole other Mario game for all we know there. They could throw in other supplementary titles like Bayonetta 3 as an example. But the biggest thing here, because we know the software is going to happen with Nintendo, good software will be there. Can they successfully release and market a revised Nintendo Switch? That's right, a refresh. If they can do that and absolutely nail the marketing, yeah, they should be able to catch the DS. And you know what? They'll probably catch the PS2. The Switch could legitimately go down as the best-selling game system ever released if Nintendo can nail this refresh. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Vivid Philosopher saying, grab your daily dose of Switch Pro rumors now, guys. So the Switch Pro comes up quite a bit. It's interesting to a lot of people. Even though I read down the comments, people say, I'm not interested in the Switch Pro. It's not that interesting. It's a rumor and all of this. Yeah, but it's technically a report from Bloomberg. So a lot of places are going to cover it. And the reason people cover it is because there is a lot of interest in the Switch Pro, despite comments saying there's no interest in the Switch Pro. The click-through rate's generally pretty good for Switch Pro topics, and if you put in your title, a lot of times people will click through and be interested in watching a majority of that segment of the video. In fact, I probably should have put Switch Pro in this title, but to be honest, even I get a little bit of Switch Pro fatigue and I like to change things up a bit, so I won't always put it there, but trust me, as we go through into the holidays and we're anticipating some kind of refresh from Nintendo, you're gonna see it popping up more and more. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's Xbox Game Pass. What do you think about the idea of Microsoft taking third-party games they're gonna release that same day and drop it right on the Game Pass? I like the idea because it saves me $60 or $70, but let me know what you think. Also, what do you think about Nintendo's 2021 coming up here, especially going into the holiday? Can this really be Nintendo's biggest year yet for the Switch? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.